to the west. Right? As you all in Philippines faced. They faced to the west. Now they were carried as workers by the Dutch. They brought them to Suriname, South America. So some of them said because we faced the west in home, they continue their culture and they made their masters facing the west. Others said, well, no, we're now much closer to the east, so we should be facing the east. So they turned facing the east. Actually, those who are facing the east are the correct ones because, anywhere on the earth you can either go east or west. So the principle is that whichever distance is closest to the Kaaba, that's the direction you should face. Right? I mean, there's some people who are going to face south. Right? When you're in Medina, you're facing south. But you could also face north because you're on a globe. So if you face north, it will go around and come back and get there also, right? So the point is that you face the nearest distance. But when you reach a point where you're equidistant, then you should agree. The people of the area should agree on one direction and they all follow. And as we said before, what's required of you in terms of facing the Qibla is the general direction. We don't have to have the exact compass, direction, so and so. If you're making a masjid and you have a compass and you can make some calculations, fine. But you don't need to go around to the other masjids that were built 50 years ago and say, well, look here now, you're off by 3 degrees. Right? You must now change your masjid to conform with our masjid. No, we don't need to do this. Because 50 years from now, somebody else will come with a more accurate compass than yours and say, well, look, you're off 0.002 degrees. Now you must change. No, this is not a requirement. Because, as we said before, when you're talking about thousands and thousands of miles, here in Riyadh, if we are off from the Qibla by 0.00000000001 degree, we've missed the Kaaba by a mile. Because over the distance, that small fraction that you're off here becomes a huge distance. So we're not required to face the Kaaba exactly, because we're not capable of calculating it exactly. So what we are required to do is to face the general direction of the Kaaba. And the only time you're required to face the Kaaba exactly is when you're there in Mecca, you see the Kaaba, you must now face it exactly. You're not allowed to pray in any other direction, you must face exactly the Kaaba. Otherwise, as the Prophet ﷺ said to his companions who were in Medina, he said, مَا بَيْنَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ قِبْلَةً. What is between the east and the west is a qibla for you, is the direction. It means 180 degrees, in other words south, right? From east to west, 180 degrees south. As long as you're praying in that direction, you're facing qibla. This is the general principle. See, all the time, when you look at the different principles and practices, if you see something that is creating confusion amongst Muslims, you must try to find out what is the root of this thing. To find out where the flexibility lies, because there is certain, acceptable and allowable differences which any community must recognize, otherwise it will be at war with itself. You must know those areas so that there can be flexibility and people can work together. And the areas where there is no flexibility, then you must know those and be able to clarify for the people that the other one is wrong. Because some people may be praying only to Allah, some people may be praying to some saints, some people may be praying to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. These are different ways, right? And when you ask the person who's praying to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he says, I'm praying to Allah through Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. When you ask the person who's praying to the saint, he's saying, I'm praying to the saint who will pray to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who will pray to Allah for me. So in the end, everybody is worshipping Allah, or so they think. But the only acceptable way Islamically is to pray directly to Allah. So you have to know the difference, that these other ways are not acceptable, and clarify for these people.